All right, hello everybody. We're gonna get started now. So I'm gonna start off just giving us a little intro on, who's gonna be presenting for us and whatnot. So thank you guys for coming to the event today. So the person who's gonna give your presentation today is Gagan. So he is a fourth year UBC student with experience as a software engineer with companies like Amazon. He's currently working as a machine learning engineer at Xtract.ai. So, if you need anything, he's literally the best person to ask. He's also UBC's GitHub campus expert, so very qualified. So today we'll be going over how we can use GitHub to be used as a tool to attract professional opportunities. We can use GitHub to build your profile and show off your work. And we'll take a look at Gagan's profile and we'll be working on your profile as well. And also we'll be building credibility by contributing to open source projects and your own projects as well. So here we'll have all your socials. If you're curious about anything, feel free to give them a follow. And try following along as well today and kind of see what changes you can make with your own profile to make it like enhanced for yourself. So I'll hand it off over to Gagan now, and we can begin.
Thanks so much, man, for that amazing introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Gagan. And yeah, so I think before I start, I'd just like to give an intro on myself again and just tell you why I'm presenting this workshop. As Brian has already mentioned, I'm a fourth year student at UBC, and I'm currently working at Xtract.ai as a machine learning engineer. I specialize in NLP, which is natural language processing, and where we deal with different kinds of textual data, speech data, and audio and image data as well. And we try to actually build systems that are efficient and that can be used for most of the governmental agencies, particularly in the military and defense sector, and where the government uses our technology to actually build their military and weaponry systems as well. And I think that's a great opportunity, and I've really learned a lot as well. And I'm also the GitHub campus expert for UBC, and which means if you have any questions about GitHub or any doubts about how to actually build your profile, please feel free to shoot me a message on LinkedIn or GitHub or any of the social media profiles that you can find. I am available on Slack and Discord as well if you guys are interested and just need my help as well. And along with that, I also work as a research assistant at UBC and the ML department for Dr. Christina Canati. And as an ML research assistant, I've been working on integrating different kinds of ML models that are actually, so some of the models that I've been working with actually range from somewhere to 10 to 100 GB of data. And so all of these models have to be embedded into mobile phones, and mobile phones cannot really take a GB of a model. Models really need to be compressed to less than 100 MB. And I'm actually working on this compressing from 100 GB, like a model that is from more like 10 GB to actually just compressing it down to 100 MB. And so that we can fit it into a model and use it in like a TensorFlow light way. And that is what my research at UBC is currently. And along with that, last year I was working for AWS as well as a software engineer. I worked with them for almost 6 months, and I'm also an AWS certified machine learning engineer. So, and I've also always been working and been really excited by machine learning. It's also my most important field of interest, and that's basically why I'm actually just doing this today. So if you guys just want to check out like what my profile is, and I just want to mention something really quick. How I actually got, so fun fact, the current job that I'm working for, which is for Xtract.ai, which is a government job and where I actually work for the military and defense sector. Fun fact, I never really applied for the job. I never submitted my resume for it. They actually reached out to me. They saw my profile on LinkedIn. They saw my GitHub open source project, and they saw my profile and they reached out to me for an interview. And I never really had to apply for them. And after working for them, and this technically actually was my dream job, because I was always been fascinated by ML and NLP, and I never really actually had to apply for it. So this is just to show what the power of just having a good profile of good GitHub profile and good LinkedIn profile can actually get you. I think we'll be going more about how you can build your LinkedIn profile as well tomorrow. And we have the best person to talk about that, which is Hima. And I think we'll be having that workshop tomorrow. But if you guys would like to actually check out what I think you guys can go ahead and check out my GitHub profile. And one of the most important things, so working in machine learning or NLP, you really need one of the most important, like the first thing that they do mention in that one is that you require a master's or PhD. And obviously I don't have either of those. So I still got that. It's because of my experience and because of what I started to build as an open source developer. And I was just really interested, but actually to prove your interest, you really need to have some supporting arguments. And what's a better supportive argument than actually showing something that you already have built in the past? And having a good project that shows your capability, that shows your code, that shows you actually how you can actually do something is the most important thing. And finally, just to make sure, I've actually mentioned my GitHub profile, and I've actually added my GitHub profile links 8 times in my resume. And I do know that people do not really link their resume sometimes, and people actually try to scare their GitHub profiles because they do not really have a lot of stuff. But having a GitHub profile link can actually really help you get a good job, and that is what actually helped me to get a job at AWS as well. They were impressed by the kind of code and the kind of projects that I actually built. And because I've shared it so many times, they actually did go through all of them. And once you actually do have so many things, and once you already mentioned your GitHub profile, you can always make sure that the interview questions that are being asked to you are relevant to you, and you do know the answers to them, and you're not lost to as to where you're going in this interview. So you can actually dictate what you're going to be answering in the interview just by making sure that you already have the right GitHub projects and the right everything mentioned in your resume. And finally, if you guys would like to check out my GitHub profile, this is just a very weird screenshot of it. But I'll actually be deep diving in how I actually build the animation there, how I actually added all of these things as well, and how you can actually make sure and optimize your profile to get the right job interviews and actually finally get your dream job as well. All right. So what will we be doing today? So today we'll actually just be building a good GitHub profile to showcase your skills. Along with that, the most important thing for a good project is having a great project Readme. If you have even if you've written the best code, you do not have a good Readme for it, the project is just not strong enough. Because if anybody looks at your GitHub project and they're not sure what it does, and the documentation is weak and people are not really sure how this code works and stuff, then nobody is really going to pay attention to it. So to make sure that people do pay attention to it and to make sure that people are actually using your code as well, it's very important that you make sure then you do specify what your code does, how you've written it, and what you've learned from it as well. And I think it's quite also important then when you're building open source projects that you make sure, or if you put anything on GitHub, it's quite important to make sure that you actually specify what does it do and why you've built it as well. Because again, you want to make sure that people understand that you're not just wasted your time on just working on something simple. You want to actually just go ahead and because again, this is like a portfolio that you show, that you exhibit to people. So it's quite important that you have a good project readme as well. And along with that, I'll also be sharing my story and how I actually got a spotlight on my favorite project, which is Key to Text, which has more than 250 stars on GitHub. And it has actually been followed by a lot of people, and it's currently being used in the industry for production as well by 3 different companies as well to generate. And it's a very simple project. It just converts keywords to complete sentences. But the way it has been optimized, it has immense power to what people can actually achieve from it. And finally, I'll just be sharing how you can optimize some tips to optimize the profile and spread the word about your profile and your projects and allow recruiters to come to your profile and actually check it out as well. All right. So does that sound good? So if you guys are actually just pretty happy, just put a thumbs up in the chat or just react to it. And I think let's get started. All right. I see some thumbs up, and yeah. All right. So if everyone's ready, let's go. Yeah. So I will be sharing, so I can share my resume with you in a bit, like towards the end of it. I can send you a link to it as well if you would like to check that out. Yeah, so I think, and I'll be going over my GitHub profile in detail as well. Yeah, you can definitely check out. Yeah, so all right. So firstly, let's actually just go over what GitHub is, and since I'm the GitHub campus expert, this is obligatory information for me to share. But GitHub is basically a website that hosts Git repositories on a remote server. It's basically where you store all your code, and it has a beautiful GUI that allows you to fork repositories, clone repos to your local machine, and it also allows you to push your code to GitHub as well. When GitHub started, it was just an auxiliary thing that people did not choose to use, as people just preferred keeping all the code on one computer. But now GitHub is absolutely important, because in our world, there isn't just one computer. There are like billions of computers that you would want to share information on. So GitHub is the most common way of sharing information, and is the most common way of actually allowing people to understand our code as well. And that is basically what GitHub is. And as a GitHub campus expert, if you have any questions and you would like to share any of the details that you would like to learn, please feel free to reach out to me on my LinkedIn or any of the sources, and I'd love to help you out with any of the GitHub resources as well. All right. So why is your GitHub profile important? So all of the FAANG companies, all the main startups, or any of the companies, everybody uses GitHub for their projects, and not just GitHub. So let's say they're not using GitHub, but everybody uses at least Git. So some people do use Bitbucket, and some people use other solutions like GitLab as well. But everybody uses a solution that is like GitHub. And building a good GitHub profile is extremely important as well. Like some companies like Netflix, Amazon, Facebook, all of these companies do actually have quite a bit of research that is going on as well. And all of their projects have actually been open source as well. And it's quite common that when you're actually working for these companies, you will be committing your code to one of the private repos or one of the public repos as well. And so people want to see, so when basically a recruiter is looking at your profile, they want to see and they want to know that if we do bring on this person, will this person be able to use and commit to the GitHub profiles or the GitHub repos efficiently or not? And nobody's actually, as for resumes as well, people don't really have the time to go deep dive in the code and actually figure out whether you're doing everything correctly or not. But it's always important that you give them the right perspective from your profile itself. And as I've already mentioned, GitHub is basically your portfolio of code to the employers. Everybody wants to see basically in a gist like what all you've built, what is your comment, like how many contributions you've made, what are your GitHub stats, and how active you are on GitHub. And I've been getting this question quite a lot, that how do you build projects, that like how do you get ideas for projects as well? And I think the easiest way to build projects is just by attending hackathons. There are quite a few hackathons as well. I think as GDSC, we would be also coming up with something. I think Arya can talk more about that later. But definitely just attend more hackathons and just join the community projects by DSC as well. I think that's a great initiative by us, and that would really help you actually just join. If you just would like to plug in that right now, that'd be great. Do you want to actually just share something or say something about that?
Yeah, definitely. I'll drop some details in the chat. If you all are interested in community projects, definitely sign up. We did have our deadline pass. However, if people are interested, please reach out and we would love to have you a part of the program, to be mentored by our core team and receive support as well as resources during creating your solution challenge project. It's a great opportunity for those who are looking for help while gaining technical skills.
Awesome. And as I was saying, so it's really important. And one of the most important things as well, so once you actually do work in the industry, a lot of times it does happen that you actually commit to a private repo as well. Even for classes as well, most of the commits that we make are for private repos, and that's not really visible to anyone else who comes to a profile other than us. So how do we show people that we have still done work and even if all of our work is private, right? I think the best way to do that is, so once you do a project, take the biggest learnings from that project. So let's say you made like a very simple to-do list, but make sure what you've learned from that to-do list and make sure you take it above and beyond. You add new features to that list. You take that code from level 1 to level 10, and you show people that you have learned something just from that class. And what you've learned from your class is not just what they taught in the class and got in your grades and you've forgotten about it. You actually implemented something, because with your implementation of your code and implementation of your learning is actually more important in the industry than actually just learning and just getting your grades and getting out of here. And I think why I'm actually just specifying the GitHub profile, because 75% of developers that are hired on the basis of their GitHub profile, and that's a huge number. So I think that makes it really clear that just having a good GitHub profile can really boost your resume and actually push you to get a better get a better job as well. And so just I think that let's just actually move to like what a GitHub profile is. Before actually we go here, so I'll just like to show you guys my profile. As you guys can see, so this is my profile. We have like a really simple, so we have like activities that I've done, some things that I'm interested in, and just like this is a really cool animation that I've built. I'll be showing how you can do this animation on your profile as well, so just maybe stay tuned for that. And all of the GitHub different stats that I've done, along with my favorite 6 projects as well, and my GitHub contribution graph. And that is basically your GitHub profile. And just having a good GitHub profile is quite important. And I think it's really critical that we do focus on what all these things are as well. And each of these things if we actually can focus on these things and make sure that our interests are really clear on what we're doing here. And then we can actually go ahead and create the best profile as well and get the right jobs that we're looking for. Just a shameless plug as well, but if you guys do appreciate my work and just would like to follow me as well, please go ahead and follow me on GitHub. And please do start and check out my projects as well. All right, let's get back to it. Let's just get back to what I was talking about. So coming back to what GitHub profile. So GitHub recently has released a new feature, which is basically allows you to create a README for your own profile as well. And it allows you to exhibit your skills, and it allows you to show what your core component, and how it allows you to show what your bare core components and what your core competencies are. It's basically like having like a LinkedIn profile on your GitHub as well. So it's really important, and it's really important that you actually have good stuff there. And I think just creating a good GitHub profile, there are just really simple steps there. And I think so once I do go through all of these things, I have a very simple activity that we'll be doing through that Dylan and Ryan can guide you through as well. Where we can actually just showcase all of our best READMEs and just put it on so that we can all learn from each other and find out the best resources as well. All right, so it's quite important to build. So how do you actually build a GitHub profile README? So it's quite simple actually. So you just want to create a new GitHub profile. So all you need to do is just go to creating a new profile. Now a new repository, and the repository should be the same name as your GitHub username. So my GitHub username is Gagan3012, and so since I've already created the website, created a repository, but you can always go ahead and just create it. If you haven't created it, just make sure to do that as well. And so once you've created your README, just make sure that you've actually added all these things and just create the file as well. And it's quite simple. It's basically like any other project, any other repository that you would build. It's very easy to actually just create a README. It's very simple to do that. The only requirement is that your profile README should be the same name as your username, and it should have the same name as that. And once you do have that, and voila, you already have your GitHub profile README set up. And again, that's just really simple. You can add text, you can add GIFs, you can add images, you can add emojis as well, and you can add some really cool animations as well. And I'll also be showing all these things in a bit. So just let's go into it. And all right, so now we have already set up a README but how do we make it awesome? How do we make it so impressive that people actually come to our profile and people actually do want to know what we've done? And how do we actually impress people with it? And I think that's that's really important, that we can actually tell people that what we're good at and what we're interested in as well. If you guys would like to check out you can go to our DSC team and you can check out our team members as well. And all of them have some really good profiles as well. All the tech team members have some really good profiles as well. And we've all followed the same procedure as well, where we actually taken what we're really good at and what we're passionate at and just divided and explained it in a simple manner as well. All right, so there are 5 really simple steps to actually building a really good Readme profile. And this will actually get you to a professional profile that can actually help you get a really good job as well. So once you do actually start off, if anyone would like to follow on as well, these are some really simple steps. I'd actually just be going through these steps really quickly, and then I actually want to show you guys how I've actually built my profile more, and how you can actually add those GitHub actions as well to create your own profile. So let's actually go ahead and get started with it. So once you do actually create your profile, so GitHub will actually just give you these ideas as well. So what I'm currently working on, what I'm learning, what I'm looking to collaborate on. And so these are just like some things that you can add on your own profile. And depending on what you would want to answer, what you would want to answer, you can just put them on. And this will allow you to actually just boost the profile and get more details. And like if someone's interested in actually learning more about it, you can actually do that. You can actually give them a platform to reach out to you and actually provide them the right resources as well. And secondly, it's always best to generate like a header image. And again, these are some personal preferences, but it's always recommended to create a good header image as well. And you can go to the reheader.glitch.me. Don't worry if you're not like to actually follow. So we already created a repo with all of these resources in. And if you'd actually like to, you can always take a screenshot of it and keep it for related resources as well. And finally, let's actually, if you want to go ahead and check this out as well. It allows you to create some really, really cool headers, and that you can actually put on your profile as well, and actually add some really cool animations there as well. And I think it's quite important to have the right header image, because that forces people to actually look at what you're forcing them to, with like there's some really colorful images as well. And finally, again, so it's quite important when you're actually building such a huge profile. It's very important to work smarter and not harder, because putting all of these things in, and for me as well, it's going to be really hard if I want to write everything in just one go. But there are really cool websites like the GitHub Profile that does everything for you, and it can generate like an easy Readme that you can just copy paste, and then you can just put it on your Readme. And this whole process will literally just take you like 10 minutes to, instead of just writing everything, which can take you like maybe 1 or 2 hours. So basically in just 10 minutes, you can create an amazing profile that you can actually share with all of us. So maybe if you guys are using Google, just go ahead and actually go to GitHub Profile Meter. Also, we have also set up like a profile. We have also set up a Readme that I'll be going through, and then I'll also be asking you guys to actually just like spin up a quick activity to do. That we'll be getting onto it. So we have already provided you all the tools. So Dylan has actually shared a link in the chat that has all the tools that you would need to create the perfect, like the best GitHub profile Readme that you would ever want to do. It has all the resources, all the videos, and all the details that are available online, consolidated into one GitHub Readme. And so just make sure to go ahead, like and just fork the repo as well, and keep it as safely as you would want to keep. All right, so let's go on to the 4th step. And again, it's really quite important to actually show and exhibit what your GitHub stats are. And as you guys can see, so this is basically my GitHub profile stats. And I've more than like almost like 400 stars. And I've actually done, in the last year, I've done like 6.6 commits, 6.6K commits, and I've created more than 300 PRs as well. And all of these things are quite important to show to the recruiters as well, because a lot of recruiters are actually looking to know whether you do know how to commit, whether you do know how to do these things or not. and they want to know how much you've been working on. And just showing them these things like and these dynamically generated stats is quite important. And again, I think that's a really good question. What are the stats and good? I would still recommend you to show it to them, because again, for me personally, when I started, my stats were really, really bad. I just had like 1 or 2 PRs, but I still had that in. And every day I would just check that to make sure that my stats are going up and up. And because again, for me, I just built it as a habit to just keep committing and just keep building new projects and just coming up with new stuff that I can share with people. And not just that, it's quite important to actually just build stuff that can actually boost your confidence as well. Because for me, just building these projects has actually helped me a lot with just open source development as well. And people do actually support a lot of open source development projects as well. And don't worry if your stats are not that great, and if you haven't done a lot of work in your GitHub, just make sure that you still have all of these things, as later on, as you do grow, as you do start working on your GitHub, you can see your progression as well later on, and you can see that how you've actually come forward as well. And still, just having these stats up, and yes, I would still recommend you to include it, as these are things, as you can customize it as well. You can remove the things that you can remove if you do not have enough PRs, or if you do not have issues created. You can remove all of these things, and you can just focus on what you've actually done more. And personally, just having a lot of commits isn't a really good thing as well. Just make sure that your commits are good. And again, these are just numbers, but if you want to focus on quality, not on quantity. So just try to make sure that you are actually focusing on having good code as well. And again, these are just stats that people want to display, but again, these are just stats that people do look at as well. Just make sure that these are something that does attract attention as well, because even once then, as I think it has already been noted on the GitHub, on the creator's profile, that once you do look at someone's profile, the first thing that you do look at is what their stats are. And because numbers are actually more easily attractable to people than anything else. So it's always recommended to include these stats as their good clickbait as well. So people would not want to know how you've done that. So definitely do include these things. And finally, if you guys have any other extra ideas or any other extra things, just make sure to actually add. Finally, just make sure to actually add your profile in our awesome UBC profile Readme page. So you've actually created a Readme profile, so which actually allows you to create, where we want you to add your GitHub profiles there. So it's quite simple, and I think Brian and Dylan can actually help you guys with that as well. But what we would actually want to do is we would actually want you guys to actually just add your Readmes to here. And as I was saying, you have all the tools available here. So anything that you would want to add, maybe whether it's just like to-do list, just like to-do stats, or any of the visitor badges, or anything that you're looking for, just make sure that you actually add it in, and you have all of these things available already. You have different articles that allow you to build the best GitHub profile. You have videos as well, and just follow all these instructions. And once you've done all of these things, we'd actually want you to actually commit this and create a pull request in this. And you can actually, so we'll be going through over this in the last half an hour as well. But we'd want you guys to actually just commit your profile. So just add your name in and add your profile. So once you do edit the page, you can just follow what Brian, Arya, and I have done as well. So you can just follow the same way and just build the same. And in the same way, you can actually just commit it and just add your name as well. And again, and we'd want this profile to actually just go wild as well. So just make sure to follow the repository now and start it as well. And just make sure that you actually take note of this project too. All right. Brian, do you guys want to guide them through how they can actually PR, how they can create a PR just quickly and just show them through, and just show them. Yeah, I think we can actually just go through how we can do the PR. But again, it's quite simple. Actually, let me just show you guys itself. So all you need to do is, once you've already added this, let's just create a PR. So I've already created a PR for it. And let's go ahead and just create a PR.
Okay, so we've opened up breakout rooms. Oh, I think Gagan lagged out. Okay, but we've created breakout rooms so we can join those and we'll lead you through it. So we've assigned you rooms, so if you feel free to join in right now. Oh, 1 second. Okay, 1 sec. Let me reopen it. Okay. There's a timer counting down right now, so once the timer goes down, we can get it back up. 1 sec, sorry. Okay, so yeah, I'll open the rooms and we can lead you through it. 1 second. Okay, so feel free to join in anytime. Okay, hello everybody. I'm assuming you guys can hear me. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen. So hopefully you guys can take a look at what exactly is going on and you guys can follow along with me. So give me one quick sec. Let me just get it set up here. Okay, hello. I'm assuming you guys can see this. If you guys can, thumbs up, please. Okay, nice, thanks. Okay, so what we're gonna do is basically we're just gonna populate this this README here. So what we're gonna do is if you're on this page, I gotta. Okay, so we'll go to fork here on the UBC DSC page, and if you don't have the link, I'll just send it over right now. Actually, 1 second, I gotta stop sharing for this. Okay, let me put in the link in the chat. There you go. All right. So here we have this. So once you get on this link, all you got to do is hit fork. And once you get fork, you'll see that you have this repository or this README on your own, what's it called? Your own account. So once you're here, you go to this little pencil icon here. So I'm not sure if everyone's properly following along. So if you are, let me know so I can keep going. I'll assume that y'all are. Okay. Actually, I'm not quite sure. Nice. Okay. Thank you, Tom. Feel free to unmute your mic if you want to say anything as well. But okay. Is everyone else okay, or has everyone else forked their repo? Nice. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Parsa. Awesome. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll hit the pencil over here and we'll be taken to this page. All right. So I'll be doing this over again. So under profiles here, under profiles right here, what you'll do is you just have your name. So my name's Brian Ho. Hello. And you have the square brackets and you do your GitHub profile. So at whatever your username is, mine is Brian TKHO with a bracket and your GitHub link. So mine would be here. 1 second. I think it's in the way. Okay, and then I'd paste my link right here. Simple as that. And once you guys do the same, I will move on. So again, let me know thumbs up, thumbs down later if you're finished. If you need me to clarify anything, let me know, but it should be quite simple here. Okay, thank you, Tom. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. And Jonathan, are you okay? Okay, perfect. So what we'll do now, scroll to the very bottom. So we want to commit the changes. So let's just have our name. So my name is Brian Ho, right? All right. Hold on one sec. Actually, it's not allowing me to commit the changes. Okay. So I'm pretty sure, yes. Okay, so my name, so we click create a new branch for this commit, start a pull request. So here, Brian Ho, it's not letting me do the thing though. One sec. Not quite sure why. Okay, gotcha. So up here, we need to change our name as well. So here we'll do GitHub Brian Ho or whatever your name is, and then we'll just commit the changes. So actually, before you do that, get rid of this commit changes here thing. That's my fault. We do not want to change the README name. But once we do that, we click commit changes here. And once you get here, let me know. Okay, thank you, Tom. Okay, Parsa, thank you. Thank you, Tevent. Okay, perfect. Let me get rid of this message. Okay, shit. All right, so once you're on this page, you'll see contribute here. And if you don't, you just got to hit code here. But once you do that, hit contribute and then click open pull request. And once you click open pull request, Gagan later on, okay, once you get here, click create pull request. And then again, put in your name, Brian Ho, and we create the pull request. And then from here, you're all good. Gagan will approve the pull request and he'll merge it. And from there, it will show up on the GDSC page. Yes, so just in a moment, if you guys are doing it, he'll slowly get that done. Are we just flooding that? Yes, that's exactly what we're doing. So it kind of gives us an idea of like kind of how everyone is, how everyone's profile is going, and kind of like a good little place to kind of track your own progress in some senses, because that's where all our resources is. So if you need some help like finding this repo again, you can take a look at what you've committed. The pull request button. The pull request button, one sec. Okay, so the pull request button's right here. So once you click, what's it called? I think it was commit changes. You'll see create pull request right here. Is everyone okay with that? Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tevent. Okay, thank you, Parsa. Jonathan, are you okay? Perfect. Thank you, guys. So yeah, once Gagan gets all the requests, he will accept them and you'll see them on the page. So for now, you can feel free to head back to the room. Thank you guys for listening to me. It was kind of rough, but we got through it. Thank you guys.
Yeah, I hope everyone's back. So I hope you guys just actually were able to actually commit to the profile and were able to create a readme as well and just add to the readme. And so we'll actually just be going over, we'll just be committing a profile in a bit. And so I think let's move on to the next most important topic is how to write a good readme for your GitHub project. And again, so I think this is quite important as well, because once you've actually done creating a profile, then people would actually want to dive into your project and check out what you've built as well. For any of the projects that you've built, it's quite important to actually make sure that your profile is quite clear from what you built, like how do you use it, and I think and how can someone else use this as well, and how can someone else understand what you've done. So, and I think it's also also very important that you build a very clear and a very evident README as well. And as the name suggests, it's README, right? Because you would want people to read it. So just make sure that it's actually good enough that people are interested in reading it. All right. So one of the most why I'm actually emphasizing on the README is that even if the manager is not technical or the HR or someone else actually goes into your GitHub and they check out that your README looks amazing, even if your code quality is not that good, you can see that still pushes you up the order, and that still gives you a much better shot at getting an interview at least, and that's a really good push as well. So just make sure that you actually have a very good and a very polished README. But how can you actually write a good README? Let's get into it step by step. So there are 5 questions that I think should be answered by every README that you write. So I think that was, what was your motivation to build this project? Why did you build this project? What problem does it solve? And what did you learn? And what makes your project stand out? I think once you build a project, I think all of these should be really simple to answer. And we don't really need to write paragraphs about it, because again, this is not a technical writing thing. It's just you need to convey the idea that why have you done all of the hard work that you did, and just make sure that it's very clear to people that what's going on here. And it's as simple as that. All right, so let's get into it. So I think what do you include in the project README? So I'm just gonna go through the theory, and then I'm gonna dive in. I'm gonna actually dive into it and actually show you how you guys can actually create basically your own README as well, and own README. And I'll actually be showing you how I created my most popular project README as well. And so for the most important thing, again, in any README is the title, because basically the project title. It's quite simple, like what the project title is. You just go ahead and you tell people the name of the title and what it does. Finally, then you get into the project description. And the project description is the most important component, and that most people do overlook, because if you do not really write a good description for it and what it does, then it does not really showcase you how you can actually make it better as well, and how you can actually just improve on it as well. You need to make sure that what your application does, why have you used the technologies, and some of the challenges that you face, and how you want to improve it in the future. All of these things are really important, and just building a README depends. It's a different way to write a README for a different kind of project. So if it's a machine learning project, then there's a different way. If it's a front-end project, then there's a different way to do it. But the overall crux of it is that you need a project title, a project description, and this is the simple, so if you guys would like to imagine, like there's like a letterhead, there's like a letter format. This is sort of like a README format that you have here. And finally, the most important thing that any other developer that is coming to your project would look for is how do I run it and how do I install it as well, and maybe try to provide screenshots of things running as well. Because if you go to any project, you see code as well, but if you're not really sure how it looks like once it's running, it's very confusing. And personally, for me, I find those repos very quite useless as well. If I can't really see, if I have to go through all the hard work to just make sure to just put in, or just to make sure to run the whole project, you have to clone it up, I have to run it on my local system, and just to find out that it does not work well is a lot of waste of my time. So just provides a lot of good screenshots there. Just make sure the people are sure how it works and how to do it as well. And that is basically how you can do it. And finally, just make sure to actually just provide simple instructions on how people and how users and how people can contribute to it as well. And as I've said, just provide proper screenshots and visual aids and give it a proper structure as well. And all right, so let's actually just dive into my favorite project, which is basically key to text. And this has almost 219 stars, and this project actually just did really well as well. So if I look at the README, one of the most important things in the README is to actually mention like what is having badges as well. So firstly, as I said, you have the project name, and then you can actually just have all the badges. So this is actually a Python package and I've almost like 47,000 downloads of it. And this is a proper machine learning project that I did as well. So I do have a front end UI for it. I have a backend Docker server set up on it. All of the models are available on Hugging Face. And I've already implemented all the code stylings as well, provided like build documentation for it. And I've also provided like the code practice stuff for it. So how you can do all of these things is basically just going to actually shields.io. So you just go to shields.io. And again, all these things can also be found in the README here. All these tools have already been added here. So you can just go to the Shields project here, which is the shields.io. You can just go ahead and create any of these badges and anything that you would like. So this would allow you to create like badges like these. And these badges are just really useful for when you're creating your profile, because having badges like these can actually just push your project a lot. If you want to open it up like in a collab project, or if you want to check it out and just run it as well. And then finally, I've actually also provided like what the idea is as well. So my idea was just to take in keywords as inputs and provide sentences as outputs, and that's all it does. So it's a very simple thing, and I've just given like one line description there, along with just like potential use cases of it, and potential just descriptions how you can use it and how you can actually just build on it as well. So I've built quite a few models for it, and I've provided all the documentation for it on just like very simple in a very simple UI. And finally, as I was saying, it's quite important to actually just have it like how you can use it as well. You can actually create screenshots of code like this, so where you actually do show them in a very fancy way. And if anyone's wondering how to do this, and again, this is also always available in the profile README that we have set up. You can always find all of these details here. But this is actually being built using a website which is called carbon.sh. So it's quite simple. So you just type carbon and carbonnow.sh. So this would allow you to create some beautiful code. So you have any code and stuff, you can just create a beautiful screenshot of it. You can share it you can put it on your GitHub. You can put it on your README. You can put it anywhere you'd like. And the best way, if you're actually sharing your project on social media as well, or if you're actually just showing it like a profile, or if you're showing it to a recruiter as well, make sure to have something like this already on as well. Because once you do have something like this on, then it's very clear in how you actually can make it work. How do you import it? How does it work? And you also have how the solution is as well. I think this is very important for any software engineering project as well, because once it's very clear how you can use the code in your project, in your own project, it becomes very simple for the user. It becomes very simple for the recruiter to understand that you've also understood what you've done. And this also exhibits your technical expertise. So it's quite important that you do have something like these screenshots and as well. And finally, just have all of these so if you have different kinds of functions and different kinds of features, make sure to have examples on how you can do all of these things easily. And I've also built like an API of it API out of things. So I went all and out on these things, and it's quite important that you have a focus as well. So what you want to do, so I've set up like a Docker image, and the same way you can use, so you have all the instructions how you can use the Docker image, how you can pull the Docker image, and how you can actually just use it, and how you can create your own project out of it. And finally, the most important thing would just be to create like the bibtext and just to create the citation so that people can go ahead and use it. And you can also add references. And if some people have also written like articles about my project, and I've also added those things, I've also added those details there. And that is basically how you can write a good GitHub profile README here. And I think it's really important that you do focus on these things and actually just focus on making sure that you actually get the right response from people, and that what you've done is actually quite clear to what you wanted to do, and just want to make sure that people actually understood that how you build these things, and how you can take your project forward, and how you can actually improve it in the future as well. All right. I just want to make sure that everyone's clear then how you can actually write a good README. And if anybody has any questions, you guys can unmute yourself, or you guys can put it in the chat as well.
Yeah, okay. So there's a few questions that we have. So I'll start off with a few questions, and if anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand or put it in chat or anything at all. But I'll start off first with a few questions. I'll say, so for someone who hasn't done anything very significant, what would you suggest the ideal profile to become a software engineer would be?
So again, so what do you mean by when you say like not done significant? So like, because you actually,
like, I'm still kind of like working on some certain projects, and some are not fully built, and maybe I'm not quite sure how good my projects are. I'm not sure how competitive my projects are compared to some other people.
Mm-hmm. As a university student, the goal isn't to actually build like competitive projects that you want to show to everyone, but I'd say the goal is actually to show recruiters that you do know the tools that you're actually talking about in your resume. Because if you say on your resume, then I know Python, that I know all of these packages, I know JavaScript, I know Java, but you do not have anything supporting that on your GitHub, then it basically creates a sense of like that, are you sure that you know these things? So you basically need to create like a supporting document that you do know your technical skills. And so if you do say that you know Java, then having like a Java project, maybe even if it's a simple project like a to-do list, but you've explained very well that what you've done, and it's very clear to them that why you've built this as well. Again, it does not matter even if it's like a school project as well. And as I've said before, like even if you've done like most of the contributions that we do are like from private repos as well. And maybe if it's not available to someone, just maybe take it a bit beyond and just add some more details into it and just create a new project out of it, so that you can show it to someone, so that you can actually prove it to the like the recruiters that you do know what you're talking about. And once you do actually do that, that actually gives you a better push to actually understand, like that actually gives you a better push to get an interview as well. Because as we all know, it's hard. The hardest part is to get the interview, and then we all know how to lead code our way through it, right? But just getting the interview is how you can actually, just having these projects is basically how you can get the interview.
Gotcha. So basically just transparency with your resume and your actual projects and your GitHub profile, essentially.
Exactly, yeah.
Awesome. We have a question from Parsa. How often does your README update itself?
So my README does, so I think my README updates every 8 hours. So actually, I can show you guys how I did build this as well. So let's go into that. So I've actually built like, so if you actually want to add any of these updating things, like this is an update, this updates every 6 hours as well. So we have like a timestamp here as well, even though this is in GMT time, but you guys can still get the idea. And this updates every 6 hours as well, along with this as well. So all of these things are quite updated. All these things are updating all the time. Whereas these two are static images that are basically just APIs that someone else has built. And I'm just using them to just show my stats there. But all of these things can do update on your own. So how you can actually do this is how you can do this is that you create a .github project. So once you're done creating the README, you've built like a basic README there. You go ahead and you create a .github folder, and in that .github folder, you actually go ahead and create a folder which is called the workflows. And in the workflows folder, you can actually add all of these things. So one of these things is the snake that you guys see. So if I can actually just show it to you here. So this snake that you guys see is basically auto-generated every 12 hours, and it keeps updating every 12 hours. So to account for every day's commit. So it's a very simple snake. So like as you guys all know, how snake works is it's gonna eat the smallest contribution, it's gonna eat the smallest one, then work its way up to the biggest one. And it's a very simple way to do it. So if you guys would like to do this as well, I've actually created this using GitHub Actions itself. And using GitHub Actions, all you need to actually do is that this generates. So we already do have like a GitHub.snake, which or master, which is a repo that it's basically a platform that allows you to create these things. And just all you need to do is provide your GitHub token, and under that, you can just provide where you would want it to, where you would want. So you can just go ahead to my profile, you can copy this, and you can create. And all you need to do is you can change your GitHub username, and you can create your own output as well. And this is basically a very simple GitHub snake that you can create. And this keeps updating every 12 hours. And all of them actually do have different timings that they do update depending on how much, because again, once you do get this Git, so it's quite important that you already, to use GitHub Actions, it's quite important that you do get the GitHub student pack. Because without that, you can't really use GitHub Actions a lot, because there are very strict limits on that otherwise. Once you do get the GitHub student pack, you can go wild with it. There are no limits on it. So make sure that you do go ahead and apply for the GitHub student pack. You can, as always, you can find all the links on the Awesome UBC profile that we've already shared, and that you guys have created the PR. So you can find all the tools and all the things that I'm talking about. You can find all the links there. But if you guys would like to see then how, so all you need to do is just go to these things, and you do have these different metrics one as well. So this is a different one that I'm actually using. This generates metrics like these, which are more optimized here as well. As I just want to showcase more focused metrics that I've been doing, and just like the best streaks that I've been working on, most commits that have been done. And this is basically just an example of how you can do it. So this is just a YAML file, and I'm sure a lot of people who work with like industries do know what a YAML file is. And all you need to do is just create a YAML file and just commit it and just add it to the workflow. So what this does is, so if we look at the GitHub Actions, so all of these things actually do run every hour as well. So I've defined a few of them to run every hour, and few of them actually just run every 12 hours. So all of them do have like a different timing that they do run. Here I've actually just added it to update every hour, because every time I do a commit, I wanted to update my profile. And I don't want to wait for, of course, I do not have the time to actually manually go ahead and change the stats myself. So I want it to update on its own. And this is the best way how you can do it, is to create a GitHub action. And to do that, you just have to go create a folder, which is .github, and in that you create a GitHub workflows folder, and then you can add a YAML file like that, which will be triggered by GitHub Actions automatically. And it's as simple as that. And I do have one more which updates my README on its own, and this updates every 6 hours here. So depending on what you'd like to prefer, I've kept like different timings for all of them, because I have different data coming in for all of them here as well. So just make sure whatever you guys like. So I've already added the examples. You guys can go ahead and fork this. If you guys like my profile, you guys can go ahead and fork this as well, and you can edit it and to create our own GitHub README as well. And you guys can take whatever you guys have liked from here, or like from my profile, and you guys can add it to yours as well. And that is basically how you can actually go ahead and create these GitHub actions and create like cool animations like these.
Okay, thank you. So there's another question from Nick asking, how does PRs turn into projects with how does making PRs to open projects a big matter, or personal subjects would suffice?
So PRs are basically just open source projects, like anything like a project that was like, let's say like a TensorFlow is a huge project on GitHub. So a project like that, creating a project like that, or project. So I would say like, so creating a project like on that scale, like just committing to that scale takes a bit of time, and it's a lot of work as well. So I would say like the best way to start forward is to start creating personal projects. But if you do think that you do have the right skills to do that, I would definitely recommend you to go ahead and create like PRs to it. I personally have committed to like PyTorch Lightning. I've committed to the PyTorch repos as well. And I've committed to Hugging Face repos as well. So it's quite important that you do know what you're doing, because a lot of times when you do create PRs to open source projects, if your code is not up to the mark, they just close the pull request and you do not get a chance to commit your code into it. So it's quite important that you make sure that your code is up to the mark and you're actually doing the right stuff that you would want to do here.
Okay. So question from Paige. How long do you spend each week on your GitHub projects on average?
Yeah, that actually depends. So like before November, like in December, I actually took like a month break because I was just going a bit too much for me. So I took a month break. But before that, I was spending like somewhere around like 30 to 40 hours every week on my GitHub like personal projects. That's just separate from work. That's just like any free time I get, I would just like work on my personal project. Anytime that I've like free from like classes or work, I would just spend time working on them. And personally for me, I've always learned to take those learnings that I've learned from school, from my classes as well, from what I've learned at work, and just creating a project out of it so that I can show people that I've actually learned this thing. And I think it's really important to like, so once you, and I think when you're learning something, you need to practice it. So just by doing it once, it does not ensure that you've learned, like you've understood what you're doing. By practicing is the best way how you can actually learn it and how you can actually understand what you've done as well. So by just creating an open source project out of it is basically how I personally learn to do things, and how I personally learn to do things as well. And that is what I would recommend you guys to do as well. If you do see something that is interesting, maybe try to fork it, try to start it, and just try to understand how it works and try to create your own version of it. Or if you've done a project on a hackathon, just try to take it forward so that you have something to boost your profile on as well.
Thank you. There's another question from Parsa. If you collaborate on a project with someone, for example, like a hackathon, do you have to be the one making the repo, or would you be able to add it to your profile if someone else made it?
So if you do collaborate with someone, and like, so you can always add it to your profile, and like you're the one, and so you don't really have to be the one to make it. Like I do have a project here. So if you guys can see, I do have a project here, which is not from my profile. It's a workshop that I did last year for GDSC itself. And it's not on my profile though, but you can still start it on repo. You can still add it to your profile, and you can still show it to, and you can still showcase it to people. Now, what matters most is like, so when someone's actually looking at your profile, they see if you've committed a lot in this profile, because if you do go into GitHub, you can see how many commits you've done in each repo, and all these profiles are quite evidently up there. So people, if people do see that you've actually committed to a repo and your name is actually involved with it, and even it does not matter who creates the profile, it matters is how you can highlight it on yours, and try to make sure that what you've done in the particular project is quite clear as well on your profile.
Another question from Nick. How did you make the transition from an electrical engineering student to a web developer? So both apply to him. How did you change from a software developer to now a machine learning engineer?
Yeah, I think so. So it's been a wild journey so far, and I actually, so it's been very interesting. So I did start off as an electrical engineering student, and I did so. But what I was interested in at that time, I was quite interested in like this power and all the energies and stuff. But as I started to learn more about them, and I started like the deep dive into them, I decided that I am more interested in the software field. So I started doing open source projects. I started doing courses. So I've done quite a few courses on Coursera and Udemy as well. And that's basically how I started to learn about them. And then I decided that I want to do more courses on UBC as well that allow me to become a better software engineer. But even in software, after working for like almost one year in the software engineering field, I still wasn't very happy with it. So I decided that I want to work in like the ML field. And again, as I've said before, it's not easy to get a job in the ML field. It's very challenging, and you do require a master's or a PhD. So actually, to counter that, so I've been working as a research assistant for 2 different profs. I've been doing some research courses as well. And ML field has been expanding daily, and it's changing. Like there are papers coming in daily that are revolutionizing the field. So you have to keep up with them every day, and you have to keep forcing yourself to learn more and more about these things. So I like personally for me, I just was personally very interested in learning these things, and I kept pushing myself to learn more and more things. And that's basically how I was able to transition from basically being an electrical engineering student to an ML engineer.
Awesome. So we got another question. Jianru, sorry if I mispronounced that, but she asks, do you have any career plans like MLE at this moment, after grad, or plan for further education, or if you have anything else in mind?
So yeah, I've just been applying to like master's and PhD programs that I can for the past like 1.5 years, and just like been researching on that. But I just plan to work for Xtract.ai for like in the coming year as well, because they've already given me the offers, and because I do get like work with ML and NLP in the kind of field that I want to work in. And I would definitely recommend you guys to check out Xtract.ai. We do some really cool projects as well. In the past, I've also worked for AWS as a software engineer, so I do know how both sides of these things work as well.
Okay. Another question: which courses do you recommend to get better at SWE and eventually getting it hired by a big tech company?
Again, so before I say like I'll talk about those courses, I think it's more important that what you learn at courses, you take it and you show, and then you implement it into a course so that you can actually tell people that this is what you learn. Because again, to getting hired by big tech, it's quite important to exhibit your projects. It's quite important to show that what you've learned from these projects. And it does not really have to be, so if, let's say it's like a simple, like it's a simple backend project. You set up like a database, you set up like a front end as well. Add some new features to it, add something else, add something that you can showcase to people. That is something that is special. Because again, when someone's actually looking at your profile and they don't really see something that is like special, then people just skim through it, right? But you would want people to stop, and because again, when people are hiring for like Bang and all these companies, there are like millions of applicants that apply for one job, and you need to stand out. And so the best way to stand out is actually to show people that you did this course and you took this learning and you built something out of it. And that's what my manager used to say as well, that it does not matter how many certifications you do, because the certifications as such do not hold any value. But what matters is that how you take those certifications and the things that you learn in that certification and how you applied it into a project, because that project does have a lot of value though.
Okay.
And
oh, sorry, please finish.
And yeah, just to add about courses as well, there are quite a few courses available online on Coursera or Readme as well. And that can actually help you learn more about how software engineering works. And there are like some really good courses at UBC as well that you guys can, I'm pretty sure that you guys can know already about. I'm not going to list them out. But I think it's really important that you do these courses and you do apply them. So again, I would really emphasize on the application than just doing the course itself.
Okay. Another question: do you know a good website to insert screenshots of a project, of an image, or of an iPhone or laptop? So I'm assuming it's like a template of, like a laptop, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So I think, again, you can always just go ahead and use Carbon. You can use Carbon. Carbon also does have a feature that you can actually run as well. Or you can tweak it a little bit, and you can always use carbon.sh. I can put it in the chat. So it's basically quite simple. It's just carbon.sh. You guys can go ahead and check it out. And you can just tweak the image a little bit, and you can create an image of an iPhone or a laptop as well. But I'm pretty sure you can use a little bit of Figma as well to create links out of it, and just create like beautiful images of the project as well.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So I think that's all the questions we have. So yeah, I think if you have any closing remarks or statements.
All right. So I think so. I've already talked about how you can build a good GitHub profile, how you can actually build an amazing GitHub project Readme as well, and I've also shared like my experience with you guys as well. Finally, to end, I would like to give you guys some really cool tips of what I have learned as well. And one thing that I didn't emphasize quite a few times is just how you can apply applications. But a lot of times, a lot of the students actually struggle is sharing their GitHub profiles with people and sharing like that what they have done as well. So it's quite important that when you've done a project that you actually just go ahead and so let's say you go into a profile to make sure that people see your project, you need to also update. So once you've done the readme, you also need to update these details. You need to have a good about section. You need to have a good description, a URL for a UI there, proper tags, a README, like a proper license as well. If you have any releases that you've done, and if you want people to sponsor your project as well, you need to update all of these details as well, as all of these things are also important as once you do add a tag that can boost your profile much more, and that can actually that can allow recruiters to reach you, and it can also allow recruiters to actually highlight you can also highlight these things, as recruiters would know that you know how to do these things. And so it's very important that you are able to share your project with people. And a lot of times, I've seen a lot of students do struggle with sharing their project. And so firstly for me, firstly for me, when I started out, I wasn't sure how do I share my project as well. So the first resource that I thought is maybe I'll just share my project on LinkedIn. And I wasn't very active on LinkedIn back then. I just had like 200 followers then. So I shared my first project on LinkedIn, which was Project Code 5, which basically uses AI to generate answers for lead code questions. And that post went viral, and I got more than like 1,000 followers in less than a week. So I think it's very important that you share your projects with people on LinkedIn or on Twitter, Reddit, Hacker News, or any other websites, or any other like Reddit links that you like. To share them, and everything that you see is appropriate. But most of the profile that like most of the recruiters that you see, most of them would actually come to your GitHub, and they would want to deep dive into it. Just make sure that whatever you have on your GitHub is clear. And even if you don't really have anything there, just make sure that whatever you do have there is very clear for them to understand, as it basically shows your technical expertise to people. And for software engineers, it's extremely important that you do show people that what you're interested in, what you know as well. All right. Are there any other questions or anything else before we close?
Hi, I have a question. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So I'm a first year student, and I don't have much coding experience apart from taking 110 and 210. And I was just wondering, since I do have time before I graduate, I was just wondering, how should I kind of prepare myself in general, like daily habits? What should I do to just improve my coding skills and just have more experience in that area?
Yeah, I think so. If you want to improve your coding skills, and if you actually want to just like learn more about these things, so the best way would just be to build a project, and best way would just be just add details in. Just give me a second. I'll just be back. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess I could chime in with that, because I've definitely felt, the confusion that you felt as a first year. Although I am a computer engineering student, I did, learn how to code in my first year itself. That was my very first introduction to software. And so felt quite lost initially, didn't know how to pick up and build on the skills that I, already had and wanted. I think one thing to do in order to gain those skills maybe is to do a whole bunch of courses. There are a whole bunch of really amazing YouTube tutorials to build projects as well, which you can follow along with. And even though it might not be a completely original project for you, you still learn something of it and gain basic understanding. But I guess I'll hand it off to Gagan now, but I would say definitely taking inspiration from other people is something that helped me personally.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Arya said. It's just really important. So when you do look at like other people's profile and you do see like what this person has done, and that can just really inspire you as well. And personally for me as well, I would definitely recommend all of you guys to join Twitter, because like I've seen a lot of people do share like really good links on Twitter, like how they've built their project as well. And you can check out a lot of cool blogs about like GitHub as well on Twitter, and how you can actually just go ahead and build like from like a really simple project or a really complex project. And all of these links are quite shared quite often on Twitter. So do join Twitter as well. And I think for like software engineering courses, one of my favorite courses that I've done is just Introduction to Software Engineering. It's on Coursera, and I think it was like it's just by, I'm not really sure by who. Like I think it's someone related to Android engineer by like Introduction to Deep Learning, but it's one of the most fantastic courses I've ever done, because it basically takes you from basics of just like software engineering to actually just building a complete project that you can do and put it on your profile. And I think that is one thing that like online courses that do as well. That once you do an online course that forces you to build a project, and you can show it, that you can post it on your GitHub, then you can exhibit to people as well. And yeah, are there any other questions that I can answer?
Thanks for that advice. Can you just repeat where you, on what website did you find the course?
It's Coursera.
Okay. And do you happen to remember the specific name of it?
So if you guys can, are you guys on the GDSC UBC server? I can just post a link. I'll just post all the links for these courses there, and you guys can take a look there.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Are there any other questions?
There was one more question, or several more actually, from Parsa. So is there any way to showcase projects, for example, like HTML or command line Java projects, without employers having to install it on their local machine, or having to buy like a domain?
Yeah, actually, I'm really glad someone's actually asked this question. So one of the best ways to actually exhibit this is by using GitHub pages. So if you do have like an HTML setup, and you guys can just go ahead and set up like a GitHub page, and it's basically just going to be your username your .github.io, and you can just use that to just actually install it. Just have that HTML page updated, and just use, and GitHub pages is free for all, so you can go ahead and use that and just and implement all the features that you would want to implement there. So definitely do check out GitHub pages.
Awesome. Okay. And also, I have a quick remark about the Coursera classes. Since we are UDC students, we get, or well, students in general, we get one free Coursera course every year. So definitely should take advantage of that if you guys are interested at all. But we have one more question from Nick, and he's asking if you're in your fourth year, or are you just extending or are you going to extend your degree?
So I'm actually just planning to graduate in December, and because I was just doing co-op, so I've just been doing courses along with co-op. So hopefully I can graduate in December. But yeah, because once you do co-op, it just extends your degree by a year. So I'm still trying to push through my way and just graduate in December.
Okay. So if there are any other questions, feel free to ask it now. But if not, feel free to start filtering out of here. And if you have any questions personally to him or any of us, just feel free to stick around. But yeah, thank you guys for coming through. We appreciate your attention. Tomorrow, there will be a GitHub or LinkedIn workshop at the same time hosted by HEMA. So if you guys are interested at all, we'll send another link, and it's also in the link you guys received a few days yesterday or this morning. So yeah, thank you for that. if you guys have no more questions, feel free to filter out and we'll answer any remaining questions at the end. The recording will be sent out after this event, along with another email as like a little recap. So don't worry about that. All right, thank you, everyone. Okay, there is a question from Nick asking how you got AWS certified.
So again, how I started with AWS because I used to work for AWS as well, and I was really interested in learning more about AWS. So I did start off doing an Readme course, and just doing online courses helped me a lot in my journey. So I would definitely recommend you guys to do a lot of online courses as they do help a lot. And yeah, I think that would be a really cool thing to do. And along with that, so just by doing AWS, and I think that's a longer thing to do as well. But like Nick, if you have any other questions and stuff, you can just send me a message on LinkedIn and we can have a longer chat about it.
Okay. One more question from Parsa. Well, not a question, but more of a sort of question. He says, can you criticize a small thing about your GitHub profile?
Oh, yeah, sure. I definitely love criticism and I would definitely love to improve as well. Yeah, so I do not really, so I think you can, I don't really use dark mode so much on GitHub. So I not really optimize it much to use dark mode, but I do know there's a way to, but I do know that can be done as well. But yeah, thanks for letting me know that. I have not been using dark mode, so I don't really check that much. But thank you so much, and I'll definitely do fix that. And yeah, you guys can go ahead and follow me on GitHub and LinkedIn. And if you guys have any other questions, I can just put my LinkedIn here, so you guys can just follow me there. All right. Yeah, awesome. Are there any other questions? Anything else I can help with?
All right. Thank you guys for coming through. Yeah, so tomorrow we will have a LinkedIn workshop. So at the same time, 11 a.m., the link to it is sent to you. It should have been sent to you yesterday or this morning. So yeah, if you guys pull through, I'll see you guys then. If not, thank you for coming.
Thank you for joining us. See you all tomorrow.
Bye, everybody.